Welcome back to Sports Talk is McKimmie. This is the loose cannon David McVie along with the Zen Master Mike Hemme and our one and only special guest for today for our 100th episode, Don Sharp, Mike.
Man, I know our fans are just sitting on the edge of their seats just wondering, what is Dave going to ask? What's Mike going to ask? And more importantly, how's Papa Don going to respond? And you know, I'm gonna let you have the first question. I know we made this. You know, we talked about the bobbleheads, right? So I'm gonna lead that to you. The bobbleheads that were gonna be. You know, we had the statue that we were gonna have sitting out in front of Don Sharp Memorial Stadium. You want me to ask?
Yeah. Well, actually, we were working on for this special episode coming up with a commemorative Don Sharp bobblehead to commemorate tonight's event. But there's a story behind the bobblehead, Mike. I think we got to share the story on that.
Right, and the bobblehead would have to be a certain type of bobblehead. The bobblehead would have to have his chin down towards his chest, looking down, and then you bobble his head, and you get the Papa Don shake, the Papa Don head shake. And so, you know, I think everybody's seen it. We've seen it. We've seen it, definitely. You know, like, what are they doing? You know, in the stands.
We just saw it a few minutes ago when Fowler hit a home run here in this Cardinals game that we're getting to watch here in our luxurious studio tonight. But what it is basically, you know, if there's a team that Mr. Sharp's there cheering for, or something doesn't go their way, bad call, or, you know, play doesn't go real good, you see the head down and the head shake. And unfortunately, he's been doing a little bit of that tonight here in the studio because we're watching the Cardinal game while doing this broadcast. But that, you know, that begins a question right there. Mr. Sharp, when did the Mr. Sharp head shake begin?
Well, that's a real good question, Dave, and I don't know that I have a definite answer for that. Probably I was doing it long before it was ever really called to my attention that I was doing it. It's not something that I ever practiced or tried to refine or tried to do for a specific reason. It's just a kind of a way of expressing myself. I don't know. It's just, you know, when I see people conducting themselves in a manner that I think is, I can't believe they're doing that, or I can't believe this is happening at this time, and rather than to get emotional, because I really am a person who tries not to let my emotions get the best of me. And so that's just a kind of a way of just expressing that I've got a little bit of feelings inside me as to what's going on, but I'm not going to get real emotional about it.
Right. And that brings me to another question, because I've experienced this. I mean, you might remember this. I definitely remember it. I remember being late, as usual, right? We're all used to me being late for
Hemme time.
for events. Yes, we call it Hemme time. It is a real thing. And I was late for a game at Cotter Coliseum. And so I'm trying to get there, and I'm going too fast through the parking lot. And what do I see? At the central office, all of a sudden I see Mr. Sharp with the finger shake of shame. And I immediately was like, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. And I hit the brakes. And it's one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, even though there was nobody to experience the embarrassing moment with me. So I got to ask you, when did you formulate that powerful finger shake to make people shake in their shoes? I know, you know, Emily has told me about it in the past. You know,
well, that's probably a combination. Probably back in the 80s, I developed the ability to point the finger at someone and to convey the message to them that their conduct was not appreciated and would not be tolerated. Probably a combination of of me communicating with my own two children, and also that was about the time that I became a high school principal. And when you're a high school principal, of course, then you go to school functions, or you're in the cafeteria at lunch, or you're watching a bunch of students up in the bleachers or something, and you see one or two up there that are conducting themselves in a manner that they shouldn't. It's just a way of letting them know, hey, my eyes are on you, and I guess that we didn't do this back then, so we hadn't learned the my eyes are on you thing. So my thing became just point the finger at them, and usually if they didn't see me pointing the finger at them, somebody sitting by them would nudge them and let them know that that hey, Mr. Sharp's watching you.
Well, it's a powerful message. I can speak from experience.
Well, I'm glad to know that it's effective because it's meant to be.
I think it just worked because we had a couple cats in here in our studio, because it's like our home in here. And I had a couple cats in here, and he gave them the finger and the look and ran them off. So it looks like they're having a look in here. But actually, I'm going to get back to a couple sports questions. Of course, we know you're a huge Arkansas State University Red Wolf fan.
That I am.
What is your favorite sports moment in Red Wolf sports history?
There have been several, believe it or not. I know a lot of people would think there's not been that many. Maybe there haven't been that many great moments in ASU sports history. But for me, there's been a lot. My senior year in college at Arkansas State, which was the 1975 football season, Arkansas State went undefeated that year, went 11-0, weren't even challenged. None of the games were even close. Of course, they were snubbed by the national media and snubbed by the bowl games. Weren't invited to a bowl game, which was
1976,
1975.
Fine.
And I went to every home game. That was their first year in their new stadium, which they called Indian Stadium back then. Now it's Centennial Bank Stadium, but it was their first season in the new stadium. They were just very dominant with everyone they played. They didn't play Big Ten teams or SEC teams, but they played a Memphis State team that had just beaten Auburn and just dominated Memphis State after Memphis State had beaten Auburn. So they were very competitive. That was a great time. A few years ago, they beat Texas A&M at Texas A&M, upset them down there, and that's a good feeling to know that someone paid you $1 million to come to their place and beat them. That's not supposed to happen. ASU, that was supposed to be one of A&M's sure victories, and ASU went down there and took care of business. So I would say the 75 season wasn't a moment, but it was a culmination of 11 games that really made a fantastic season for my senior year, and it was all the students went. It was a season that all the students went to the games, and we just really had a great time there at the stadium. It was a party atmosphere.
All right, well, I got a question for you: Indian or Red Wolf?
I don't have a big hang up with either one. I think a lot of people, I hear a lot of ASU alums say, well, I'll always be an Indian. I'll always be an ASU alum, whatever their mascot is. That's not a big hang up for me. I think ASU's did a real good job of selecting a mascot when the NCAA told them they couldn't be Indians anymore. I think the Red Wolf is a good mascot, and I think they've done a very good job of marketing it. And I'm just as proud to be a Red Wolf as I was proud to be an Indian.
Mike, I think our producer's signaling us, and of course you've heard some of that noise in the background. People are just trying to get in here. We got the cats that were in here. It's like all the cats in the neighborhood are coming out. Everyone wants to be here for this event. But our producer's telling us to go to break, so we'll be right back here on Sports Talk is McKinney to continue this incredible discussion of sports with the one and only Don Sharp.